Felicity, it's lovely to have you on Good Living.
It's great to be here.
Thank you for joining me on this wet old Thursday.
It's a bit chilly out there.
It's not good, is it? Now, we're here to talk about your latest book, Head Over Heels, which of course follows the trilogy, the Penny Rushmore trilogy, of course with Sandwich Short of a Picnic and before that, Split Time. But Head Over Heels, Penny's still going strong, isn't she?
She is. She's still rushing from one crisis to another, a bit like I do too.
So is she a bit modelled on your
Just ever so slightly. She is and she isn't. There's a lot of me in her. I think, you know, they say to write about what you know, and I've certainly done that, but there's a lot of me that isn't there. Like, for example, my mum never had Alzheimer's, as she would very eagerly tell you all along. And there's a lot of things that aren't there. I mean, okay, Penny's in PR, I'm in PR. It just makes it easier to relate to people, and I think to create a character that people can relate to, that she's very real.
When you were developing Penny for a start, did it take you long to kind of find out the sort of person that you wanted her to be?
Well, yes and no. I mean, she came after my first three novels, which were sort of historical and contemporary, and they did have a character that went right through them. But Penny was a bit different, really. She's more of today's woman. She's a sandwich generation, which is what I am, and I know you're a bit young for this yet.
So what do you define as a sandwich generation?
It's when you sandwich between ageing parents who, at least one of them is, you know, starting to get a bit frail or a bit sick, and teenagers or kids who are demanding your time and your energies, and a sandwich in a demanding job, and in this case also a crazy dog that keeps raiding the bench for food. So it's all these pressures that are on you, and trying to find time for yourself, for your friends, and just to get away from it all sometimes, which is so hard.
Yeah, it is, exactly. In this day and age, it really is. For fans of Penny that are about to read this new book, Head Over Heels, we don't want to give too much away, but can you tell us just a little bit about the story this time?
Ooh, well, it follows on from the last one, but it's quite separate in itself, because in the last one, readers may recall, if they've read it, if not, they've got a treat in store, that her husband walked out on her for the archetypal younger woman, excuse me, the junior partner in the office. She, at the beginning of this book, has got herself pregnant, which, well, she didn't get herself pregnant, but she is pregnant, which comes as a huge shock to Penny, as you can imagine, because she is just getting out of that stage where she can no longer have children. Her kids are still very much in her face, and here's this younger woman with new life in her, and it makes her confront a lot of things. Not that she's got a great deal of time to dwell on it, of course, because all the other things that are happening. Her mother's Alzheimer's getting a lot worse. There's things happening at work that are busy, and then of course there's the love interest that's also keeping her occupied. And in this time the love interest, he's a marine biologist, and he's doing some interesting work with overfishing of tuna in the Southern Ocean, and part of his research into spawning grounds takes him into the Mediterranean, and so Penny has to follow him. Of
course, as you do, you know. Why wouldn't you heading over to the Mediterranean?
But it's not all plain sailing, as you may guess, and in fact about the time that we were in Turkey, there was some bombs went off there, and so the same thing happens here. I won't say anymore.
Okay. It's not anymore, then you should go out and read the book. Do you think there's a fourth Penny Rushmore in there somewhere?
I'm thinking about it. I'm very much thinking about it. I think she's still got some life in her yet.
Yeah, and we love that about her too. That's what I think. She's just going to keep going.
She never gives up.
Now, tell me about your preference. I mean, you've written some fantastic historical books as well, and also novels. What do you prefer if you had to make the choice?
Well, fiction is a lot easier, because if things aren't going your way, you can make it up. Whereas
yes, good point.
And if you don't like a particular character, well, you can change them. You know, if only you could do that in real life. But I mean, I have enjoyed doing the histories. There's a huge amount of research which I find is quite difficult because it's time consuming, not because it's not interesting, but what I really enjoy is being able to make something really interesting out of what would appear to be dry, like the Chamber of Commerce, you know, 150 years of annual reports. Most people think, oh my God. But really, you know, the same issues were facing them in 1890, like how to irrigate the plains, that are facing them now, and they still haven't done it very well, of course.
Yeah, so, that's right. So how do you choose what historical accounts to tell?
Well, in the case of the Chamber of Commerce and the Lane Walker Rudkin book, I was asked to do it, and I have to say that sort of thing pays a lot better than fiction. I mean, it's you sadly don't do this for the money.
I know, it's for the love, isn't it?
It is. I love doing it.
And of course, you had the best-selling novel with The Life of John Britton too. That must have been quite an experience.
It was, and what an amazing man. Yeah, and his wife. His widow, I should say, is my cousin Kirstine, so not that I look at all like her, unfortunately, but there was a family connection there, and I wanted to help out.
Did a beautiful job too.
Thank you. It's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
And it's still selling, believe it or not. It's still going.
Well, such a fascinating and interesting man that I think his story will be told for a long time.
He was incredible, beautiful guy.
An innovator. Having a full-time job is, of course, with your own PR company with your husband. When do you write?
Very good question. Sometimes I wonder myself. Usually at evenings and weekends, and at first it's really quite hard to get started. You've got an idea, but you have to make yourself sit down and get on with it. You know, I might clean the oven, clean the toilet, anything rather than get started. But once I get started, once you're about a quarter of a way into it, you don't want to stop, and you really get carried away. So weekends at home, and at the summer is actually a really good time when we go camping, and we have 3 weeks camping when I can just do it every morning, you know, for a couple of hours, 3 hours every morning. The trouble is we don't have any electricity, so we tend to I use the plug into the car battery, so we're often having to charge up the car from someone else's car. My husband's very patient like that.
So camping's a nice time to get some thoughts out there.
It is. It's quiet and it's and it's peaceful, and then you can always look forward to a bit of a lie on the beach afterwards.
It's interesting that you say that your process with getting a quarter of a way in and then you just can't stop, and it's like that for a lot of readers as well, isn't it?
I hope so.
Yeah, getting in and then that's it.
Once you're in, and it's a very compelling thing, which is probably just as well that I'm driven to write, but I do enjoy writing. I've always enjoyed writing. I used to be a journalist at the press, and then I was at television and radio, and I've always loved writing. But I think about 10 years ago, I thought I'd really like to write fiction, and the very first book I wrote, I was up in Denniston on the west coast, and the place just haunted me, and I thought, this is what I'm going to write about. That was the first time it hit me.
And that was the start for you. So getting back to journalism, what do you think about journalism today?
Well, Helen.
I know, when we've got a couple of minutes left of the interview.
It's sad in a way that it's become once over lightly in a lot of areas, and the sort of analysis that we used to get is just not there. I mean, having said that, that's not entirely true, but the thing where you have to ring up somebody and ask them how they feel about someone who died, that didn't used to happen, and I just couldn't bear being a journalist and having to do that again. I think it's the most awful thing, and I agree. I also hate reading about it and hearing them on television and just saying, they're crying, they're talking about some child that's died. It's just truly awful, and I don't think it should.
There's a point that you have to...
It's not journalism.
Stop. Thank you very much, Felicity. It's been lovely to have a chat with you. Remember, Head Over Heels is in all good bookstores at the moment. Follow Penny's story. She's got a fantastic life and still more to come too. Felicity Price, thank you very much. It's been lovely chatting with you today.
It's been great to meet you. Thanks for asking.
No problem at all.